She's a courageous voice for women, parents, and modern workforce leaders alike. She's a keynote speaker and proud mother of two, the Vice President of Sales and Strategy for ATR International, Laura R. Munson.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast Parent Boss Leader. It's an interactive podcast where I interview leaders across industries. Today, very cool guest, Hillary Hayes, Director of People at the Honor Foundation. We're going to be talking about balancing leadership, Hillary's transition to a mission-driven organization helping veterans, and how her innate curiosity has opened a world of opportunities. Welcome, Hillary.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
This is exciting because you and I actually share similar backgrounds. You were with Aerotech 15 years in the staffing industry yourself before even going to the Honor Foundation. And I wanted to give you the opportunity really to share high level what the Honor Foundation does, and then we'll jump into our flow. Sound good?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The Honor Foundation is a nonprofit that focuses on supporting our future veterans coming out of the Special Forces community. And so it is an education program, essentially, a 3-month MBA style format where we really dive deep into these particular men and women that have excelled in their careers in the military and really help them find the right role post-military. They still have so much to offer and to give, and we know that they have dedicated their entire military career to their identity being a Navy SEAL or a Marine Raider or a Green Beret or anything that that supports those particular operators. And we genuinely believe that the more people that we can get that have this type of character, that have this type of drive, this ability to excel in whatever it is that they do and touch, the more of them that we can get into corporate America, the better corporate America becomes. And so it's really just a program to help them articulate their experiences in a way civilians can understand, to help them discover what matters most to them in terms of their priorities and their why, and what really speaks to them and makes them, bring their best self to any sort of environment. And we help them put language around that and give them the networks and the opportunities and the experiences that they need to make the best possible decision for what's next. So
absolutely. I think that for folks who are listening to this podcast who are in the corporate world, really, it's a great opportunity for them to even look up the Honor Foundation to see what you're doing. Because it's how you and I got connected. We've partnered with you. Our recruiting teams have helped review resumes of the cohorts. We've been on panels, we've supported events, and I think it's a great foundation for the corporate world really to support, to get engaged hands-on, to help folks with their transition out.
Yeah, and not only that, I think this particular community of the military, the special operations, special forces side of things, they're pretty accustomed to being relatively private. So there's a big portion of corporate America that doesn't have a lot of exposure to these particular men and women coming out of this part of the military. And so they really do bring something different to the table in terms of their leadership skills and their hard work and their ability to work through adversity and figure things out and just get stuff done. And so there's just so much that is inherently built within them through this experience in the military that I think it's just a part of the community that's a little underrepresented. And people might not be as aware of what they could get when they hire somebody that comes with this background.
Oh my goodness. I love really talking about this because I help lead our military program at ATR International. And part of what we do is we go between corporate world and candidates, especially the military, and really try to state the case of why military personnel is so incredible to have on their teams. Because sometimes hiring managers, it's hard for them to really make the jump looking at the resume to putting them in a particular role. So
Yeah.
I love the initiatives that the Honor Foundation has going on. I love the program, and really thank you for being here.
Well, yeah, thank you. And like you mentioned, us getting connected through this nonprofit work that we do, and your passion for supporting veterans and being a spouse and understanding the community in a way that that a lot of people might not have visibility into. And I love what you're doing to continue to bring awareness to the talent that can really come out of this community. So
Gosh,
thank you.
thanks,
Yeah.
Hillary. Yes. Now let's flip to you a little bit here. Tell us. So you started as a recruiter at Aerotech back in 2005. You were promoted to account manager, senior account manager, divisional practice lead, senior account executive. That really says something about you personally, moving up the corporate ladder like that. What qualities do you think really fueled you in your career to get to the front line in the ranks of leadership?
Um, Well, I guess what fueled me early on evolved as I went through each iteration of those different jobs. But when I think back to 2005 and Aerotech being my first kind of corporate experience, my first corporate job, um, you know, to share a little bit of, I'm not sure if I want to share this, but I will. I am dyslexic, and growing up as a child with dyslexia, you tend to develop different skills that, through hardship, really create character in a way that that other people have to get there in a different fashion. And so, although certain things were much harder for me, what it created in me is this drive to kind of prove myself and this pride to learn something regardless of how long it took, and this work ethic that I knew I would have to put in more time to get the same amount done as other people, and to be in an environment where there's a competitive element and it's really just hard work and it's really just effort and working through the process. That first job as a recruiter really spoke to that capability. And when you're dyslexic, you develop a interpersonal skills. My degree in college had to do with interaction studies. And so really understanding nonverbal body language and communication in a way that that you can see somebody behind just the words that they share. So that skill set really lended itself well to recruiting. And once I got good at recruiting, an opportunity presented itself to start a brand new division. And at the time, I was a little scared. I didn't really want to do it. But the company needed me to. It was time. The market was ready for it. And I always knew that I never said no to something just because it would be hard. Because I was used to doing things that were hard my entire life. I grew up in a family of educators, doctors, and lawyers. And so to be the only person at the table that had to work through a learning disability, there was just this level of pride that came with proving myself. And so that really worked for me early on in my career. Later, it evolved into something a little bit different. And those types of accolades and, achievements didn't drive me as much as they used to when I was in my early stages of my career. But really just solving the problems and creating something new and building a legacy at a company that I got to really put my stamp on. That's what really became more rewarding. And then watching the people that I was able to develop and train and promote and move into their careers, and watching the success that other people were able to create based on, subtle guidance that I might have been able to provide them. So sorry, that's a
Wow.
long-winded answer to a very simple question.
No, I think it's amazing. And I just want to thank you for your bravery, even sharing that. And I think it's a testament to you because you are a powerhouse leader. In the first time even you and I connected, you have a amazing command about you in such a real down to earth way. And I think that the struggle that you went through early on really did shape you,
Yeah.
working harder, being the best. And to me, I think that's a beautiful thing. And you and I had talked a little bit as well. Some of the top execs board who've been on my podcast before on neurodiverse, to me, there might be something there, working hard, not giving up, that really leads you to the top. So I think it's impressive. And thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Once I started doing some research on it, I started really understanding that any sort of hardship can be turned into to a positive if you look at it the right way and if you take it for what it is. And I was lucky having two parents that were science teachers, that were able to identify that early on in my life and build a lot of tools around it and instill a lot of self-esteem and self-confidence, despite that being something that I worked through, and if anything, I do think it made me stronger in terms of character and just a sense of self-centeredness, if that makes sense. And so in a roundabout way, I wouldn't trade it. And I know that sounds strange to some probably, but I wouldn't be who I am had that not been something that I was gifted with as a child.
Wow, I love that. So tell us, you transitioned from the recruiting world to a leadership role at the Honor Foundation. So I know that the Honor Foundation really helps, say, transitioning folks into the corporate world. What drew you to the Honor Foundation?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. When you are in the staffing world for as long as you and I were, and you still are, it gives you visibility into why companies make decisions that they make. And it gives you a little bit of a behind the scenes glance at some of the decision processing and why they hire who they hire and why they fire who they fire and why somebody didn't do well in an interview that you thought might have done really well, or why they hired the person that you thought there's no way they're going to hire them, right? So we just have such a unique gift of being able to see behind the curtain of a corporate decision process and how they structure their organization and what their foresight is into the future and what their company strategy is. And it was just this set of skills and inside information. I'd worked with close to 4, if not 500 companies in my tenure at Aerotech. And, every one of them I'd do an on-site meeting and a tour of their building, and I'd meet their hiring team and whoever it was. And it was always just a little different how companies approached hiring. But it's such a unique lens to be able to collect all those little miniature differences from one company to the next. And it's a skill set that I knew I could give to somebody else. And it was that point in my career that it was time for me to, really just prioritize feeling like I'm serving instead of receiving. And I know that's a different way of looking at it. But I knew that I just had information that could be really beneficial to certain people. And I didn't know anything about the military, but I did know that there was a lot of companies and a lot of hiring managers that had some hesitations when I would present a candidate from the military. And it was one of those things that was very curious to me all along. And, obviously we were going to do with what the client requested and needed. But it always just triggered that thought in my head of like, why would you not just give this person a 30-minute interview after everything they've done? At least have a conversation. And just the people that were just adamantly like, no, they're not going to work based on a piece of paper, it actually evolved what I would ask a client. And I would say, what matters more, the paper or the person? And as soon as they said the person, that's when I asked them to extend me a little trust. And I started seeing a little bit of a turn, that there was a little bit more of a willingness to even consider somebody from the military. And I think it just always stuck with me. And it was just one of those things that the opportunity presented itself. It was a little bit of a serendipitous, way that the job came in front of me, and everything just felt right to make the transition. And I took the leap, and nearly 3 years later, I'm still in nonprofit, and I'm still helping people figure out how to navigate a job interview and all the rest of it. And so I couldn't be happier with the decision that I made to make the shift. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's so true. Your background coming from staffing, you would be the perfect candidate, even being the director of people internally, because you'd mentioned knowing hundreds and hundreds of companies and how hiring managers tick.
Mhm.
It's true, because even at ATR, I think of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies, thousands of interviews. You hear feedback, there's sound bites. And of all people, I think in the recruiting industry, we really do have insight into the mind of how hiring managers think. So
Yeah.
you're using your power for the good in helping the military
Yes.
get these positions. It's amazing. And I wanted to ask a little bit about that in particular. So as the director of people, what you do is you put together a lot of program events. You help the current fellows and alumni alike,
Mhm.
and you create an environment where these folks are able to make valuable connections. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you do that, maybe even on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, my role is really fascinating. So the program itself is over the course of 3 months, and they do 2 nights in the classroom. And we'll bring in a different faculty for each topic of the program. We have it separated into 3 different phases. And so the first phase is really dedicated to self-discovery. And it's something that, this particular community has not been given the luxury to do in their careers. And so them sitting still and really reflecting on the choices that they want to make. Where do they want to live? What type of environment do they want to be in? Do they want to have a commute? Do they not? Just something so simple as that they hadn't really taken the time to do self-reflection. And so we do the Simon Sinek Start With Why. We do storytelling. We allow an environment for them to offload anything they need to offload so that they can have a fresh start and really get excited about the future instead of reminiscing about the past. And so that first phase of the program is really dedicated to the self, to doing the Gallup strengths, to doing career leader assessments, to really just looking in the mirror and getting to know themselves at a deeper level, which can be scary sometimes. And especially for people that that's not really the priority. And so the second phase of the program is really tactical in nature. So it's really them building kind of their toolkit for transition. It's their resume class, their networking class, their LinkedIn class, although we have a different faculty, I'm always one of the people in the room that's always kind of chiming in and validating or challenging or having them look at it a different way. And, like you mentioned, that command skill that I'll bring is, I definitely make sure that my experiences show up when they're in the learning process. But the last phase of the program is where I really step in and really take a lot of ownership in terms of what they get to experience. And the last phase is industry immersion. And essentially, I will bring in about 50 to 60 volunteers in San Diego to do mock interview nights with them. So they'll run through 5 rounds of practice interviews. I want them to get the kinks out, to not, make a classic interviewing error in front of their dream job, and so it's really a way to practice sets and reps and to get the community involved and to get hiring managers at our campus, meeting the fellows. The amount of times that opportunities have stemmed from some of those conversations is just one way of bridging, their connections to the civilian workforce. The other thing that I'll do, and like you mentioned, I'll have professional panels, and I'll bring in people such as yourself to speak to your experiences in the employment industry or as a business owner or, in a strategic level role at an organization or somebody that's accustomed to doing a lot of hiring. And so They really get to hear from people that have been very successful in their careers, and riddle them with questions, and fireside chat, and get all the information that they can. And then the last part is company tours. So I'll actually take them on a day of company tours, locally here in San Diego, and then we'll fly to a different city. So we recently came back to Dallas, and we spent 3 days touring several different companies, and it's incredible how much their confidence can grow. Some of them have never done a job interview in their lives. They got in the military when they were 18. They've been in 20, 25 years. And this is the first time they're walking into a corporation. And it's amazing how the confidence will shift from that first company visit that we do. They're a little nervous. They don't quite know what to expect. To the very last one, they're like, I could do that. That looks great. So it really does just the smell, touch, taste, feel of being in an organization and hearing from their leadership team and listening to key stakeholders talk about why their service or their product is something that is a great place to work for these fellows. And so it just ends up being a really holistic approach in terms of them figuring out this process and really deciding to be very intentional about what type of career path they want to establish post-military.
Oh, I love what you're doing over there, Hillary. I think something that's amazing about you too is you hold a certification as a strengths coach. And I think that that really helps as you kind of look at people and help pull out of them ideas, opportunities where they could fit. I wanted to ask, maybe as one of our last questions, because I think it's so powerful even for corporations to help support you. I know that the Honor Foundation is in San Diego, and any companies who are willing to support you, the Honor Foundation, can connect with you. And what's the best way? Would you say that's through LinkedIn, or how to
Yeah.
connect with the Honor Foundation?
Yeah, and actually, I'll give you a larger view. I'm just here locally in San Diego, but I have several counterparts that are supporting other campuses in the country that we have. And so we have 10 campuses altogether. We have Virginia Beach, Camp Lejeune, Fort Liberty, Eglin, Tampa, JBLM in the Pacific Northwest. We have 2 virtual campuses. And so we really are expanding exponentially because the demand is there and the need is there, and the impact that they have going through this process and not doing career transition alone, being part of a group, being part of a community that really understands what they're going through. It is one of the best programs that I think this community has access to. I think there's so many wonderful veteran service organizations that are there to support. But this one is so in depth. It's such a lifetime commitment. Our mission is to treat them with honor for life. So they always have access to the resources. They always have the ability to come back. To answer your question, any of those locations, I would say just refer to our website first and foremost, honor.org, and look to see which person in the people role might be in your general location. That's going to be the best person to reach out to, and just send an inquiry about working with the Honor Foundation, what that looks like. We're looking for executive level coaches. Each fellow gets assigned a coach that they work with throughout the entire program. That's all volunteerism. We're looking for faculty that want to support any of our new campuses. That's always also volunteerism. We're looking for panelists and mock interviewers. And, the larger our community becomes, the more connections they have access to. And, the goal is for them to meet somebody that's in a position that can make a hiring decision outside of the traditional applicant tracking system process or anything along those lines. And so LinkedIn is a great way to communicate with any of us. Our website has, general information and an inquiry opportunity on the website. And so, yes, I would say just having people just reach out and express interest in learning what that volunteer could look like. It is one of the most fulfilling, rewarding experiences that somebody can have. And it's a great way to volunteer a skill set without a tremendous amount of time. And so a 1 hour, a 30-minute conversation for an informational interview that a fellow can have to learn about an industry that you might be in, it goes so far, you know, and it's such a little piece of somebody's time, but it can have such a profound impact on somebody going through this transition that it's just a great way to be part of the success that they could see in the future. So.
It's so true, Hillary. And I think even to share personally how amazing it is on the corporate side to partner with you, you're always extremely responsive. You look for ways to help the fellows. You've always been very engaged. And I know even you referred to the mock interview nights. That was one of my favorite things that the Honor Foundation does. I even wrangled my husband in. He was an officer in the Navy and then a friend of mine in recruiting at General Atomics. I think it's a great way, even for the business world, to band together and even come in and help. It's so fun on both sides because I think we come in and we're curious genuinely, and we learn firsthand how to continue helping transitioning folks. So thank you for continuing to be part of this. The work you're doing is incredible. My hat is off.
I have so many people after that night tell me how thankful they were just to meet these people, and just to learn about their experiences and their stories and help them craft their delivery in a way that's really appetizing to a future employer. And so it really is just a unique community that we get to have access to, and they're so competent and capable, and 99% of the things that they do and touch, and they're accustomed to winning and succeeding and being able to overcome any obstacle. And then there's this tiny little 1% that is quite the mystery to them. You know, we ran some surveys, and over 90% of this community said they were more terrified to do career transition than to go to war.
Wow.
And for me, as a true civilian, I just couldn't sit by and not lend the experiences I've generated in my recruiting and staffing and placement industry career without giving them some of that to help them along the journey. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Hillary. Thank you for being here, for sharing your background, your experience, how equipped you are to really be in this leadership role. It's an honor to know you. I respect you personally a ton.
Likewise.
And for our listeners, if you'd like to connect even with Hillary personally, she is on LinkedIn. And I just wanted to say thank you, Hillary, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for doing this. The community needs it, and we need more people like you that are passionate about this. And thank you for just giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. And to our listeners, please like and subscribe, share this. Let's get this message out. We want to help the military. We want to see them working, and we're grateful for all they've done in their service. So thank you again, Hillary.
Thank you.